All right, let's give you a little overview of a hybrid electric vehicle here. What we're looking at is a Honda Civic hybrid. We can tell it's a hybrid vehicle as we have our gasoline engine on this side. These orange wires here indicate our high voltage wiring on the vehicle, or wires that are coming from our high voltage traction battery. So in this case, the Honda type of drive, these are going to feed down here to the IMF motor. They're going to go back underneath the vehicle, so we're going to, especially in this case, we're going to want to watch these wires when we rack a vehicle on the lift. A lot of times you can see this orange conduit as it snakes its way back to the rear of the vehicle. The cover plates and things can be really close to the lift points of the vehicle, so we got to watch out for that. But if we're doing any kind of service work around these wires, we're going to want to de-energize the high voltage end of the system first. Make sure that these wires don't have any energy in them, that all the high voltage is isolated in the battery itself. Okay, to de-energize our high voltage wiring, we need to find the safety switch or remove the interlock device. That can be done a couple different ways depending on the vehicle manufacturer. A lot of times they're located in the trunk, maybe behind some rear paneling that we need to pull out, but things we can find in the owner's manual, service manual. A lot of Kias and Toyotas have an interlock back here in the trunk of the vehicle that can be accessed that way. This Honda Civic, we've had to remove the rear seat, and then that exposes this center panel here that says up on it. Notice we have some pretty serious warning labels. High voltage, you will be killed or hurt. Do not remove this cover. No customer service parts inside. Important battery disposal information tells us we have a nickel metal hydrate battery, but we need to make sure we're using all proper high voltage electricity PPE protective equipment when we're working around these parts. There are parts inside of this control box area that are serviceable by technicians, so we do need to be trained on how to safely work around these systems. But now I'm going to open up this panel and I'll show you our main disconnect switch where we can disconnect our high voltage circuit. Okay, I've gone ahead and removed that panel I just mentioned, two 10mm bolts. I definitely did not use that impact gun right there because that would not be safe. Make sure we've got our equipment on, and these are most certainly not the expired gloves that you saw earlier. This exposes our main power switch here for our battery pack. You can see our on and off there, and if I flip that switch down with our high voltage protection, that will open the high voltage circuit, and now any high voltage energy is contained in the battery pack here in the rear of the vehicle. So it's safe to work around that orange conduit now. And that's how we de-energize the high voltage circuit of a hybrid or electric Honda vehicle. For any emergency personnel, obviously you would not be able to access this very easily during an accident, so the safest way for this vehicle to ensure that the vehicle is de-energized would be to disable the 12-volt system, open the contactors, and that should de-energize the system. In the case of the other vehicles, a lot of times you can get to these switches or interlock device that we remove in the trunk of the vehicle. So that's what you would want to get to disable the high voltage wiring of the vehicle. This is a procedure that is something we want to be familiar with. Just because we're not servicing the high voltage conduit or components themselves, it doesn't mean that we won't be working on components on the vehicle that are around these high voltage wiring. So just like we need to disable a 12-volt battery if we're going to change a power window motor or work on an electrical component of the vehicle, when working around the high voltage conduit, we need to make sure that we've disabled that power as well. Thanks for watching, everyone. I appreciate you taking the time. I hope you learned something from that, and I'm going to go ahead and reinstall a rear seat here. We'll see you guys next week.